I'm going to get kicking this off with some introductions. So I am Evil Mog, and this is domain compromise through print spoolers. I'm a hacker over at X-Force Red. In fact, let's go pull up my bio over here. So I am Evil Mog from Team Hashcat, also from X-Force Red. I have a bunch of certs. You probably don't care about those. And I have a black badge collection addiction. I've presented at multiple conferences, and I can be Twitter stalked at evil_mog. Easy enough. So while we're here, see if I can type today. We're here to talk about the NTLM version 1 packet and why we can abuse it to take over a domain controller. So basically what this attack I'm about to demonstrate is going to do is you as an attacker can send a printer request via the MSRPRN print spooler notify service to a domain controller. That domain controller then sends you back a notification of all of your printers. Now, this is an authenticated request. You need domain user credentials. And the cool part about this is you can, because the DC is connecting back to you, you can force it to authenticate. And when it authenticates as its domain controller machine credentials. So if you can get it to connect back to you with an NTLM version 1 response, we're about to go demo how we can reverse this. Now, first, though, the settings that actually apply to this, though, are set in group policy. So if you want to find these settings, you can go here, the computer configuration, Windows settings, security settings, local policies, security options, or this entry in the registry. In order for this attack to work, you need to have one of the following settings set. So these settings were typically set on domain controllers that were built as, say, Server 2003 and then migrated back when we had things like Windows XP, Windows NT, Windows 2000, etc. So the setting of send LM and NTLM responses, kind of bad. Even worse, even if you're sending an LM response back on settings of 0, 1, or 2, any one of these should be suitable for you to attack. Now, the evil part is some people have set what's called the mode 2, which requires or disables the landman authentication portion. Okay, no worries, that's easy enough. We can still break that with SSP, which I'm going to demo in a few moments here. So first, let's look at an NTLM version 1 response. So right now, this is a complete message. We're going to go break this out. The first part of this is you're going to see the domain controller, which is the machine account we're authenticating with, the domain we're authenticating with. This is what's called the landman response. This is the NT response, and this is your client challenge. Now you notice all these zeros here. This is what makes reversing NTLM version 1 with SSP to NTLM harder. Stops using things like crack.sh. So if we look at the landman response section, you'll notice all those zeros. Okay, that's our primary clue. Here's the NT response. And here's our client challenge. Now I mentioned something called SSP. SSP is a protection method used to prevent some evil attacks against NTLM. Basically, it prevents the use of rainbow tables by modifying the client challenge. So if we look at our landman response above, we only really care about the significant portions of it, minus all the zeros. Then we care about the client challenge, which is set in an NTLM version 1, which is the client's nonce. You combine those together to create what's called the combined challenge. Then you MD5 those and take the first 16 characters of that MD5 string, and that basically becomes your new combined challenge. Now, why this is important is we're about to go do some entertaining demos. So cat my steps while I'm here. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to pull into Impacket, and we are going to look up the domain SID of the domain we are going to attack. So look up sid.py. We're going to go to mog/evilmog or at mog.local. Password in this case is password exclamation mark. And what we're looking for is this domain security identifier right here. We're going to use this later. So I'm going to copy that, go export SID equals, and just to prove I've nothing up my sleeve, I'm going to pull up crackmap exec. I'm going to use the user credentials I just typed in, evilmog-p, password exclamation mark. If I could type today. So no special privileges, nothing scary, we're all nice and good. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start up responder. I attack WRF P, and I'm not doing this with the TAC LM, although you normally would use this for this attack to use crack.sh. I'm going to demonstrate it with hashcat because I feel like living dangerously. Oops. And make sure you set your Ethernet interface to Ethernet 0. Okay, now we're listening. Now we're going to go into the KRB Relay X from DirkGen M's repo, and in here there is a printer bug tool. So Python 3 printer bug. We are then going to go mog/evilmog at dc1.mog.local 192.168.1.128, which is my attacker machine's IP. We're going to kick this thing off. It's going to ask me for a password. We're going to enter in that password. And we'll see here we have a nice shiny NTLM version 1 response. This is perfect. So we're going to pull up a tool that I wrote called the NTLM v1 multi-tool. So we're going to run Python or Python 3, sorry, because I updated it recently. NTLM, we're going to paste our results in here. We're going to hit enter. Oops. Oops. Duh. There, now we're good. So what the NTLM version 1 multi-tool does is it splits up your hash into components that can be used for cracking it into, or reversing it technically using the des mode 114,000 into a hash. So what we're going to do is, because this has SSP, it tells us here's your current client challenge, here's the significant portions of the landman response, here's your nice and shiny combined challenge, here's the MD5 hash of the combined challenge. Now why this is important is the new client challenge that we use for cracking purposes is this SRV challenge, which is the first 16 characters of this MD5 hash. Okay, easy enough. So I added a nice little tool in this to make my life a little easier. So what we're going to do is type in tac hashcat, give it my hashcat path. Is ~git/hashcat/hashcat. Yes and no. I have it double nested. And we're going to tell it where the HC utils are. And that is going to be ~git/hashcat-utils tac xrc, again, because I am lazy. So now, if we want to go find out the last 4 characters of the NTLM, hash of the domain controller machine hash, we just copy straight out of the tool. What this does is this uses the hashcat utilities CT3 to NTLM bin properly formatted to extract out the last 4 characters, because we'll just get crack it in real time. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tell this rm14000.hash, which is my last one. All you do is you copy these 2 components to use the hashcats mode 14,000. Also, I should point out that if you want to use crack.sh, we do output crack.sh tokens using the tool, so you can save yourself some time and or money. But if you happen to have a cluster, this works just as well. So now that we've input this, it tells you exactly how to crack this with hashcat. But in my case, because I already have the keys, I'm going to make this a little bit different. I'm just going to copy the first bit of this. We're going to go DAC A0, des.canned, and dash, there we go, that should work. And then it's 1400 or 14000.hash. Oops, got those in the wrong order. That happens, it's actually, there we go, 14000.hash, des.canned. Voila, we've now cracked the hash. So if we go back to our original tool, if you use its output that it gives you, to go crack with hashcat, it'll say, hey, this thing's been already cracked. Oh, and because I'm using ZSH, you got to put quotes around it. No biggie. Yep, see, already cracked. So we go to show. Now right here we have the des key. It's the des known plain text attack, effectively. You need to convert this des key into an NTLM hash. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ~git/hashcat/hashcat-utils des, one sec, src/des, oh, that's why, bug. hashcat-utils/src/des key to NTLM. We'll copy this first portion. There's part 1. Here is part 2. And then, like I said, we copied out this piece from our CT3, which we need to get the last 4 digits. There we go. So our NTLM hash of the domain controller's machine account is basically this. Now, what can you do with a domain controller machine account hash? Well, let's go create a silver ticket with it. So I'm going to copy you back to my initial box. We're going to go export. We're going to control C out of U, export NT hash equals. All right, and let's go verify that this is actually correct. Crapmap exec SMB 192.168.1.3 TAC U DC1 $sign is its machine account name. TAC H is the dollars NT hash. Bingo. So now we've verified that this machine account hash is correct. So now we need to go create a ticket with it. So we're going to use our favorite tool called Ticketer. So Python 3 ticketer.py. We're going to go with DAC NT hash, dollars NT hash. We're going to go DAC domain TAC SID, dollars SID. We're going to go with the domain of mog.local dash SPN of host slash dc1.mog.local. Then we're going to tell it my admin account is the administrator. Administrator. There we go. So the important part about this is you give it the NT hash of your domain or your domain machine account. You give it the domain SID. You tell it the domain. And then the SPN here is always going to be host slash, or not always, but in most cases, host slash, and then the domains or the like DNS name of the account you're going to go attack. So we're going to hit enter here. Oops. Yeah, I missed one thing. Change you to a quote. So we've now saved our ticket as administrator.ccache, which is fantastic. I'm going to go export that so it can be used by secrets dump. Easy enough. Now we're going to secrets dump this. And this is the moment of truth. Hopefully I did not screw this up. Voila, we now have ourselves a dump. And you might sometimes have to run it twice because this has the new 0 logon code that dumps the plain text master password also of the machine account. So domain machine accounts are 128 characters long, randomly generated in most cases. So they're hard to even display on a terminal, but this will pull it straight out nice and easy. Shows here's the default password of this component here. We've got our straight out DC sync. And yes, my administrator account and my evilmog account have the same password of password exclamation mark. Again, great for testing. So that is that component of it. Now let's get back to my agenda. So now the important part about this is remediation, obviously. If you can't remediate this, it's not important. So let's go back to my ADTalk, cat. All right, let's go clear the screen here. Cat settings 2. So if you were setting up your environment, what you really want to do is make sure that you have set that landman settings. Now let's go get the GPO while we're here. 1 sec. GPO, cat registry. You want to set this registry or security setting to use a setting of 5. What this does is sends only NTLM version 2 responses, refuses landman and NTLM. This is important because it also blocks a number of other attacks that may use the LMv2 cat field in section, or if you're using the setting 4. This is actually also set in most CIS benchmarks. So go in, check your group policy settings to make sure this setting right here is set at level 5 in order to stop this attack. Now for the mandatory credits, because I like to give credit to people. The person who discovered this originally was Tifkin from Spectre Ops. And it linked to a whole series of attack techniques. You can also relay these attacks if you've got, say, do this on an Exchange server. You can silver ticket just a single server if you've found a box using individual settings. It's fairly useful there. And the KRB Relay X code was stolen from Dirkjan Molema. I can never pronounce his last name right, so I apologize, but there's his code. And last but not least, the NTLM v1 multi-tool, which I wrote. which is based off of Moxie Marlinspike's research and Adam from Team Hashcat's research, is located right here to automate your life. Again, you can use the crack.sh because we put out their compatible tokens, but if you have GPUs, Hashcat works just fine. This should take about 5 to 7 days on, let's call it 16 to 32 GPUs. And with that, I will open this up to questions. Oh, one request in the queue. What's that request look like? Oh yeah, do I know any implications while setting this on a DC? So the important part of this is if you have any really legacy systems such as Windows 2000, Windows NT, older systems that do not communicate with NTLM version 1, those shouldn't be on your environment anyways. This really was a setting that was used for compatibility back in, I want to say, early 2000s-ish. Nowadays, now it's 2020, there's no reason to have this applied unless you're linking up something really ancient. Then the second question was from Chris Timmons there. Can you force a client to use NTLM even if the GPO is set? There are some techniques such as registry settings. You already have to have admin on it. So from an attacker's perspective, no. But if you have, say, local admin on a box that you can't mimikatz, there is the internal monologue attack that can speak NTLM version 1, but that wouldn't really apply in this case. Do we have any other questions while we are here? I know this was a really quick whirlwind demonstration. Oh, and then if you want to know how I created the terminal graphics, that was created with MonoDraw for the ASCII art, and then a tool called libsixel for converting PNGs directly into the terminal so I could avoid PowerPoint. And that's really about it. Guess more people are joining in, so I could almost do this a second time if people wanted. Bueller. Yeah, screw it. Let's run this twice. I'm in a good mood. So let's go run this demo again. So I'll go back to my initial response. For those of you who literally just joined in, let's do this a second time. So, Cat, I am Evil Mog. Easy enough. I do stuff with hashes. I crack things. What we're here to talk about is this particular registry setting, the NTLM or the landman compatibility level, and how it can take down your environment because of the print spooler. So the settings we were talking about again, which we were talking about here, the vulnerable settings. If you have either of these three settings set, send LM and NTLM responses, send LM and NTLM, but use NTLM v2 if negotiated, or send NTLM response only. Any of these three settings will make this attack work. So we're going to look at a standard NTLM v1 response, or the process of how this works. So basically how this works is we have our attacker. We're going to send a printer request to a domain controller. And by the way, the print spooler runs on every computer by default, including your domain controllers. So you may want to disable the print spooler on security sensitive systems. If you disable the print spooler service, however, it will prevent a service that works that updates clients on their domain controller or on their existing printers. So it will cause some domain functionality breaks. But yeah, the way this works is attacker sends a printer request to the domain controller or any other server for that matter. It replies back with, here's your printer list. And on that printer list notify back, we send an NTLM challenge to the domain controller. If it sends an NTLM version 1 response back, we're basically in business. And the way a V1 response looks is we have this blob that comes back. So in it is your domain controller, which is basically your machine account name in this case. You have your domain name, which fills the name of the host name. We have a landman response, which is this section right here. Note that this is using something called SSP, which is a protection method used to prevent rainbow tables on the NTLM version 1 response. If you use crack.sh to crack these, it costs about $200 and takes about 3 days. If you have a hashcat cluster of about 16 GTX 1080s, you can do it in anywhere from 3 to 5 days, all the way up to 7. This is the NT response field, which is the second portion of it, and this is your client challenge. Now this gets modified because we are using SSP. So again, here's our landman response. Here is the NT response. Here is the client challenge. Now, the way SSP works is the client challenge that you set as the challenger gets modified. So what we do is we take the significant portions of the landman response before the zeros. We take the client challenge. We combine them together to create what's called a combined challenge. You then run MD5 over that combined challenge and take the first 16 characters. That gives you your new modified challenge. So in order to demo this whole thing, what we're going to do is we're going to go clear. I'm going to clear this. And we're going to go cat steps because I write this stuff down. And we're going to go, first of all, we're going to look up the domain SID. This is the most important step of this because without the domain SID, we can't forge ourselves a silver ticket. So we're going to look up .py, mog/evilmog at mog.local. My bad. Look up SID. All right, so my password in this case is password exclamation mark. Just to make life easy. And we see here our domain SID is this. This is the security identifier of the domain. We're going to export this so I don't have to remember it later. And to prove I got nothing up my sleeve, map exec SMB 192.168.1.3 attack u evil mog attack p password exclamation mark. So I'm not cheating. This shows as a regular green. I've got no special admin privileges. We are good to go in that regard. So from here, I'm going to kick off responder. And we're going to do this without tac-tac-lm because I feel like being unique. So what we're doing is we're running responder on our Ethernet 0 and we're telling it to wait for a challenge. I'm also going to have to do this. Responder.db and delete that database. That's because what it does is it'll cache the challenge it's received and stop issues. Now I've got mine set for random, so it shouldn't cause problems, but for demo purposes, clear your responder DB because that's reasonably important. Now we're going to go into the KRB RelayX demo. We're going to run Python 3 printerbug.py. We use mog, which is my domain name. I'm going to do this evil mog at dc1.mog.local. We're going to go 192.168.1.128, which is my attacker IP. It's going to send me send an authentication to the host. I'm going to type my password in here. It's going to authenticate back to me as the domain controller. And this NTLM version 1 has changed, which is fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this NTLM version 1, and we're going to put it into the NTLM v1 multi-tool. So Python 3, NTLM v1.py, tac-tac NTLM. Type my stuff in here. Now we're also going to go tac-tac hashcat, tell it my hashcat path, which in this case is /git/hashcat/hashcat. And then we're going to tell it where my hashcat utilities are, which is going to be /git/hashcat/hashcat-utils. All right, cool. So now we need to go figure out how to crack this hash. So I'm going to go rm my 14,000.hash. I'm going to go echo out what the tool gives me. Now what this is basically a desknown ciphertext or desknown plain text attack. And the key that we generate out of this from hashcat is going to get converted into the NTLM hash. So we've now set up our component. Now, because I already know what the passphrase is, or the hash is on this, I'm going to just make our lives easy. Hashcat -m, so we use mode 14,000, attack mode 0. We're going to go 14,000.hash. We're going to go des.canned and let this go. All right, cool. So we've cracked this. Now we're going back to our original output to prove that I'm not lying in my tool. We're just going to type this out as is. Now, because I'm using ZSH, I need to wrap my mask in quotes. So see here, we've already cracked all our hashes. So we're going to go show those now. So here is the components of our password hash. So first thing we're going to do is go git /hashcat -utils source ct3, or we're going to go des key to ntlm. And we're going to take this component inside the hex. There is part 1. There is part 2. And now the last most important part, we're going to crack CT3 using the tools output. So this will give you the last 4 characters. Oops. I typed my path wrong. That's fine. Hashcat utils /src. There we go. So we have BB0. So our hash winds up looking like this, this, and this. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go export nt hash equals that, and this is now our nt hash. Perfect. So now the next part of this whole thing is we're going to go create a silver ticket. So the tool in the in-packet utilities is ticketer. So /ticketer.py. We are going to go -nt hash $nt hash tac domain tac sid $sid. Domain is going to be evil or mog.local, wrong domain. We're going to go -spn, which is going to be host /dc1.mog.local. And then we are going to go with the administrator user, who is an admin. Oops, lowercase in the SPN, my bad. There we go. So we've saved our ticket to the administrator.ccache. Now what you need to do is you run an export on this, a Kara B5 Ccache name like this. Tell it where our Ccache is, and then we're going to run secrets dump with the -k and no pass. That way it uses a Kerberos ticket to secrets dump the DC. And here we are. So we've now secrets dumped the DC. Occasionally my version blows up because I got it set up for 0 logon, but now it actually pulls it a second time. So you'll see here we have our SAM from this, before this was a DC, or DP API, and you have your full proper secrets dump. Relatively easy. So if we go back to our agenda, cat agenda. So the tools we used for this was the NTLM V1 multi-tool. Whoops, cat onto 4. This was discovered by a couple of awesome people. So Lee Christensen discovered the original print spooler MSRPRN exploit vector. Dirkjan Malema is the one who wrote Caribou Relay X, as well as a lot of the good 0 logon code. So we abuse a lot of that. If you want to remediate this, you want to be running on compatibility level 5 from that registry key we mentioned earlier. And again, that registry entry was, or that policy location registry entry was right here. And that gives you just about everything we need. Again, I have been Evil Mog. Thank you for watching and coming to my talk. Do we have any questions? Everyone caught it that time, right? Cool. Well, thank you all folks for coming. That's been, Is there an advantage to reducing the machine password refresh interval? There is and there isn't. So basically with the machine password refresh, I've seen people reducing it down to as low as a week, and that's handy for when your machine gets compromised and it reduces the duration of silver tickets. So it won't hurt anything. It may not stop this particular attack, but it'll definitely reduce the time that an attacker is in. So I do encourage a reduction. Obviously, do your own risk analysis of what it might cause for systems. If you have a fairly reliable network with decent DCs, it should not be a problem. If your time frame is set to low and a machine's not online, it will just check it and expire it when it signs on, as opposed to automatically expiring it. So the risk level is minimal. Yeah, let me go find the link for that chat. Bear with me here. LM, hold on a sec. It's LM compatibility level. I usually have to Google for this every single time. So what you want to do is go into this link right here, and that tells you all about the landman compatibility level. Also, make sure you disable your print spooler on your domain controllers, as well as your Exchange servers and anything else that you consider seriously sensitive or don't want me to look at wrong. Anybody else? Cool. Well, thank you all then with that. I'm going to stop my video and screen share, and I can answer questions. Feel free to reach out on Twitter. I've got no problem answering questions on there. That's generally the primary way of doing things for me. And if you have anything else, feel free to reach out.